In 1942, 2 Honolulu police officers responded to a household disturbance. The officers were shown into the Hawaiian family's home to discover a 10-year-old boy, along with his 18 and 20-year-old sisters, were attacked by a ghost. The children were slapped, strangled, thrown, and levitated. Their mother attempted the local custom of cleansing the area with Hawaiian tea leaves and Hawaiian salt, but her attempts failed and blamed this as the work of her husband, who was a Hawaiian kahuna, a person knowledgeable in Hawaii's ancient ways. After an hour and a half of paranormal attacks, the officers escorted the family to a relative's home. This event was documented by a Honolulu newspaper, and many feel these actions were not caused by the kahuna husband, but a sinister entity that consumes humans. The home was Hawaii's haunted Kaimuki house, and this is Legends from the Pacific. Aloha, and thank you for joining us. This is Legends from the Pacific, episode 34, Hawaii's Haunted Kaimuki House. I am Kamuela Kaneshiro, a professional writer, speaker, and Comic-Con panelist with extensive film and television experience. I study mythology, I've encountered unusual things, and I'm a geek. You can support us by getting 2 or 3 of your friends to listen to our show. Also, join our email list to download my encounter with Hawaii's famous Faceless ghost of Waialae Drive-In. Later in this episode, your featured song and Hawaiian word, but first, Hawaii's haunted Kaimuki house. Located on Hawaii's island of Oahu, somewhere in Kaimuki, is one of Hawaii's most haunted houses. I'll get more into this cryptid location later. Now, this haunted house seems like something from a movie, complete with accounts of people screaming in the dead of night, fleeing from the house to their cars, and racing off, never to return. But unlike Slender Man's urban myths, the Kaimuki haunted house has too many newspaper accounts, witnesses, and police reports to be just another story. Hawaii's locals believe the house is haunted by a Japanese ghoul known as a kasha. Kasha means burning chariot and is an ogre or troll who takes mortal souls to hell in his fiery cart. But a kasha can also be a humanoid cat demon. Both kashas enjoy eating humans. They also linger at funerals and cemeteries to acquire corpses for their meals. So how does a Japanese kasha connect with a house in Kaimuki? Locals claim that connection has been lost in time. The house has a couple other stories. One involved a husband killing his wife, 2 children, and buried them in the backyard. Another stated 2 women lived in the house, and a man was interested in one of them. But when he discovered the women were lesbians, he killed both women and committed suicide within the house. As of this recording, there's no documentation to support these 2 stories, but something to consider is such stories would affect the house and the neighborhood's property value. Still to come, your featured song and Hawaiian word, but now a story. The following is a Legends from the Pacific original story and is based on documented testimony. "30 years after our opening story, a police officer responded to a home disturbance in Kaimuki. 3 girls living in the house claimed someone was lurking in their rooms and they heard talking. One of them said she felt a hand on her arm. They didn't feel safe. One of the girls' mothers lived in nearby Papakolea and wanted an escort to her house. It was about a 10-minute drive, and the officer agreed to follow them. They started the drive to Papakolea, but the girl's car pulled into a parking lot. The officer followed and saw the girl who claimed she felt a hand on her arm was in the middle front seat. Looked like she was fighting someone from strangling her. The officer raced to help her, reached into the car. A large calloused hand grabbed his arm and twisted it. The hand could not have belonged to one of the girls. The officer broke free and radioed for assistance. Within moments, another officer pulled into the parking lot. The 3 girls were hysterical. The original officer was pale and explained what happened. The attacked girl was told to get into the new police car and everyone will follow. With everyone in their cars, the second officer turned his key, but the car wouldn't start. The girl was put back into her friend's car and the police car started. They decided to continue following the girls, but several yards later, the girl's car door opened and the attacked girl fell out into the road like she was being strangled. The police tried helping her, but it was no use. The force was stronger than them, and it continued strangling the girl. Coming up, your featured song and Hawaiian word. Our closing story was based on another Honolulu newspaper article from the 70s. It's unclear what happened to the girl, but I'm sure she survived, because that would have been reported if she didn't. Now, earlier I said the house is somewhere in Kaimuki. If you do an internet search, you'll find a house, but this house might not be the actual haunted house. You see, we really don't know where the house is. And while something might have happened at the pictured house on the internet, it's possible this house might have become a catch-all for whenever someone heard a paranormal event occurred in a Kaimuki house. Dr. Glenn Grant said he was uncertain if the listed house was the actual haunted house. The ghost hunters and I never had a chance to investigate the listed house, but some of the ghost hunters enjoyed driving past it and they wanted to see if I'd sense anything. I was concerned about bothering the neighbors, but begrudgingly tagged along. We stood on the sidewalk looking at the house. Within seconds, we were chased off by neighbors yelling that this was not the haunted house and acting like suspicious characters from a Scooby-Doo cartoon. I don't blame them for their odd behavior because I'm sure people bother them all the time. Today, the listed house was torn down, and it's uncertain if the new house is haunted. Before Dr. Grant's passing, the original house went up for sale. Some of the ghost hunters suggested we buy it and conduct ongoing investigations. But Dr. Grant echoed his doubt about it being the real haunted house and stated, because of the house's infamy, the living would be more troublesome than the dead. If you like what you heard, please give us a rating, write a review, and share Legends from the Pacific with your friends and family. Don't forget to join our email list to download my encounter with Waialae Drive-In's Faceless Ghost. Our theme song is Mystery by Tavana, courtesy of High Sessions. Sound effects are by Sound Effects Factory. Our music coordinator is Matt Duffy, aka DJ TripleBypass. Links and show notes can be found on our website, legendsfromthepacific.com, including a link to your featured song, which is Where You Are by Kai Nalu, courtesy of High Sessions. Legends from the Pacific was written, produced, and edited by me, Kamuela Kaneshiro. I also wrote our original stories. Your featured Hawaiian word is lima. Lima means hand. An example of lima is thing from the Addams Family was a lima. Once again, lima means hand. Thank you once again for listening. Mahalo and a hui ho.
At the same time, baby, I wonder if you are too. I wonder why you left.